All right, guys, welcome back to From the Beach to the Bar. My and Jess's podcast has been going on longer than any other attorney in this town, I might say, because they're all popping up now, and I'm hating. But on to the show, we're back to the judicial episodes. We have Dennis Matthew Lay, also known as Matt Lay to me and Jess. He is running for Las Vegas Municipal Court Department 2.
Thank you for having me.
Fuck yeah, I got it right.
Happy to be here. And you did get it right.
Yeah, Matt, Jess, and I have known each other for fucking at least 12, 15 years.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very long time. Matt's wife is actually a dear friend as well, Rochelle Wynn. She is a Nevada State Senator, and so Matt is currently a prosecutor for the city of Henderson, but he has set his sights on the idea of throwing on that black robe and dispensing justice. So, thanks for being here, Matt.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Tans and Jess always here as well. So let's talk about it. Matt, we've known you forever. You went from private defense attorney to doing some track work with Jess and I. And then he said, screw all these defendants, I'm going to prosecute.
Just like that.
Yeah, pretty much. But, so let's walk through it. Who is Matt Lay? So, sir.
I ask that every morning when I stare into the mirror.
Mm-hmm. You went to Portland, right? For undergrad?
I went to school in Tacoma, Washington.
Oh, it's Puget Sound.
Yeah, it's a tiny school. I went to Green Valley High School. Shout out to the Gators. And
Gators.
I went to University of Puget Sound, smaller than my high school. Met my wife there, and she got into law school at UNLV, so we ended up coming back. And
I think you guys moved to Seattle, law school? No?
No, we didn't meet. We met when we were like 20 years old. And so...
Weren't you like passed out with your door open and she came in?
No, that was not. That is not true. I don't know why.
There's some story about a door open and she's walking by, or I forget what it was.
Oh yeah, that's a reverse story for her that I won't get into.
Okay. So
that makes sense though.
Okay. But so you're from here, graduate from Green Valley, go Desert Oasis. And then you, how has that changed? Like, Jess went from Hawaii to Michigan for law school. So you go from like straight 70 to negative 70.
It was nuts. I grew up in the Southwest. So, it's like when you crest a hill here and you can see 35 miles to the other side.
Yeah.
I had never been in the Northwest. So like, I remember driving up there and just staring out the window because I'd never seen trees like that before, or greenery, or
what are these things?
Yeah, it was shocking to me. I mean, and then, it starts raining, probably November after I'd been there in August. And I'd never seen rain like that where it's just downpouring. It was like being under a wet blanket where, the clouds are 100 feet off the deck and it's just drizzling on you all day long. Like the last year I was there, it rained for 120 days in a row. And it was extremely depressing.
It reminds me of Forrest Gump. And then the rain started.
Yeah. But the thing is if you go up there for the summer, Pacific Northwest has amazing summers. Like, global warming's changed that a little bit, I think, but very temperate, beautiful. So if you only ever go up there in the summertime, you're getting kind of like a false depiction of how it really is.
All right. So why law school?
I was in a graduate program at UNLV. I was getting a PhD in United States history. And
nerd.
I was focusing on the Constitution, and I decided,
president.
Yeah, we're very much in sync. Strangely enough, I was studying something called the Emoluments Clause, and people were telling me like, no, this is kind of an arcane area of law. No one's ever going to talk about it. And then, of course, when the president got elected his first time around, all of a sudden he was accepting lots of gifts from different people.
And for the people who don't know, the Emoluments Clause essentially says that a president is not allowed to receive gifts in his private business because it would be improper in that situation and could lead to him swaying his influence. That's correct, a better term. And so he had the Trump Hotel in Washington. And if you notice, any foreign delegation that came into town would always stay at the Trump Hotel. They would always eat at the Trump Hotel. So he was indirectly or directly benefiting from his office.
Receiving lots of gifts.
Yes.
What if it's just a nice hotel, though?
It's weird how he sold it right after he got...
That must not have been that nice. So I did that, and then in the middle of all that, I thought, I need to learn to research like a lawyer does. Went to law school. And then when I got out of law school, I kind of started up the PhD again. and I was starting to have kids, and I thought I'm going to be able to make a living and feed my family if I switch to the law. And so I did that and haven't looked back.
And then you were a law clerk as well. So you were a judicial law clerk.
I was in the 8th Judicial District Court, which is the state trial court. And I worked for Jackie Glass. So I'd been in the office as a law clerk for maybe a month. And then the O.J. Simpson trial started in our department. So for almost the whole month of September, we had the O.J. Simpson robbery trial. And I was, I'd sit there every day to the left of the judge and like 5 feet away from O.J. Simpson. It was pretty
Juice.
Yeah.
Juice had a massive head. Like whenever you saw him around the RJC, like normal sized guy, but the head and the hands were like huge.
He wasn't that tall though, right? Was he like?
No, he's about my height. Yeah, maybe a little bit higher.
5'11.5".
Yeah.
He was a big guy. I remember walking out, like the judge had sent me out one time and she said, go see if he's back, because we'd taken a break. And I think the jury had a verdict. And I went, and each courtroom has kind of like a gallery where people can sit and watch court. And that was a hot ticket during the trial. But then I went past the gallery and there's this little like hallway that leads out into the main kind of courthouse part. And I opened the door and OJ had returned, and he was like white as a sheet. He was a very large guy, but kind of had like a look of fear in his eyes. It was a really unusual experience. The parking lot where they would put judges, and I think it was a public parking lot, it was just covered. I mean, every satellite truck for every news group was there, and I think Court TV was there. It was just really strange. And I remember sitting there thinking, I'm never going to see anything like this probably for the rest of my legal career. I mean, it was so crazy, but to get it right off the bat was pretty unique and a really great experience.
That's insane.
And Jackie was always interesting, right?
Yeah, she was a great judge to work for.
Mm-hmm. That was an excellent way to put that. See, he's so very political. I love Jackie to death. She was a little harsh for criminal defendants when I was coming up, but
and Jackie left and had a TV show.
Yes,
Judge Glass.
Did it last 2 years?
I have no idea, but I never got the opportunity to appear in front of her, so I was always on the other side, kind of looking out at the courtroom.
I don't know if I've ever appeared in front of her.
She does arbitrations like a civil.
Yeah.
So like we will, if you haven't had contact with her, you will. But like she's wonderful. I love her to death. I was like, ooh, Jackie, I'm gonna get screwed, but no, just incredibly wonderful, smart, gets things done, perfect judge to do arbitrations with. But so you come out of the gate, your first thing is you're studying under a judge who is so good that she got her own TV show.
Correct.
And then after that, you say, hey, I'm going to go out on my own.
That's correct. My wife and I had kids, so I had
2 beautiful kids.
I did. At the time, I only had one, and my wife and I were both thinking. My wife was a public defender and then had transitioned to private practice, and we really wanted to spend as much time as we could with our kids while they were young. And so we really reduced our workload so that we could spend time with our son.
Yeah, you guys, because we actually shared office space, right?
That's correct. My wife and I were in one room at one desk, and I was doing a lot of appellate work, so I would come in on the weekends or at night and really work those up. And then she would kind of take the day shift with our son.
Uh-huh.
And so we did it deliberately. We structured it that way because it was really important to us. And then, once we started to have a bigger family, they need things. They need food, a house, clothes on their back. So we had to ramp it up a little, but it was really valuable to have that two years with our son, and then probably the first 2 years with our daughter as well.
And so couple of trials.
My first real jury trials, the first 2 were with you, Ben.
Oh, which ones?
The one the Wells trial where the guy he robbed the Church's Chicken down on Charleston.
Oh,
Which I don't think is there anymore.
yeah, I know exactly which case you're talking about. And they caught him on the loop, like the 15.
Yeah. And he jumped into that Ahern. It used to be Ahern, now it's United Rentals, but he got caught up there on the I-15 or the 95 where it comes over from the I-15, and he and a couple other guys had leaped over the fence, and they caught him with the helicopter. And then the second one was a guy who had robbed a bunch of these casino cages at the front of the grocery store.
Oh, he was the guy. This is the story I tell all the time. This is the one. I've done murders. I've done, rapes, sex assaults, all this stuff. This guy who was robbing the casinos in the supermarkets, what do you call it? Fucking, why have I drawn a blank?
The ones that are right up there at the front.
One-armed bandits. What do you call one-armed bandits?
Slot machine.
Slot machine. Thank you.
I was like, what are you talking about?
I was like, Jesus, bar. But he was robbing the slots, and a couple of things out of that trial. One, it was in front of Doug Smith, who we've told some stories before in the past, but that guy got the longest sentence of anybody I have ever represented.
And to Doug Smith's credit, I remember being in the trial, and there was an offer on the table And I think you're going to get to the other piece that would have made that offer very desirable, but he wouldn't take the offer. And I remember before the trial started, Judge Smith is like, hey, is there an offer here? And we told him what the offer is. And he's like, bring the defendant out. And they bring the defendant out. And I don't think the state wanted to give us an offer, but he kind of, said, hey, is there an offer? Yeah.
Twisted some arms.
Twisted some arms. And so the client didn't take the offer. And then, of course, when it was all over and the judge had seen all the nitty gritty,
34 consecutive life without.
He got hammered, and it was upheld on appeal too, which that's the stiffest sentence I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Yeah. The crazy thing about that is his getaway car was a red Prius. I don't know if you remember that.
I did, because it didn't fit him at all.
Yeah, no, it was crazy. And I remember one thing about that is right before he got caught, the detectives, I think it was rope detectives, repeat offenders for those listening, repeat offender detectives were following him around, and he had just robbed like a Rebel gas station, and the lady that was working the store came out and she was just dazed. And the detective was pretty close to him and said, hey, do you see where this guy went? And she just pointed, and then the helicopter got him. And that's when I realized those Metro helicopters, all the capabilities, even back, this was like 2013 or 14, all the stuff they could see and all the things they could do. And then, of course, this guy's in a red Prius, which, it's hard to conceal.
Yeah. And this guy was huge. He was probably like 6'2", big dude. A lot of malice behind those eyes. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
And what's funny is he's doing 34 consecutive life withouts for, I believe, $7,800. I think his total score was about $7,800.
That's crazy. I forgot about that, but it doesn't make any sense.
Funny thing, and I don't know if I should say this, but I don't care. It's public record. There's apparently 2 drawers at those supermarket casinos. The top one is like the one for the petty cash and stuff like that, and the one underneath apparently was all weird.
Where the real stuff was.
Yeah. He never realized there was a second one, so he didn't get anything.
Correct.
Yeah, he was a scary dude.
Yeah, and it was the victims in that case, from what I remember, were all, a lot of elderly people that hadn't saved very well for retirement and were like in their. I remember some of the people came in with walkers or in a wheelchair, and it was just like that did not play well in front of the.
No, it was a parade of old white victims, and you have a large black man.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, even in today's day and age, that still plays a certain way.
Absolutely.
And as a judge, you have to be aware of those things.
Of course, you've got to be fair and impartial. And the fact that I've been on both sides, I've done a long time, as 11 years as a defense attorney, and then now I just finished 4 years as a prosecutor. You see it from both sides, and so you can kind of bring both of those perspectives in when you're a judge. But having the defense background and perspective is totally invaluable, because you have skills doing that job. You're seeing people at their absolute lowest point. Sometimes, I have this idea, you kind of call it the punching bag theory, where you're the only person talking to the client. Nobody's talking to them. No one's giving them information. And unfortunately, they take out everything they have on you because you're the only person there.
100%.
And so I kind of think, you develop those skills, talking to them and dealing with them, and you get to know them. Some of these trials, for whatever reason, I know during COVID, trials got delayed so much that people were just sitting there, and you were, the saddest thing, they don't have any family members contacting them or coming for them. So you're literally the only person they have.
Yeah.
And you get to know them pretty well over 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah. No, like we said, we had one of our first trials was in front of, what's his name? Glasses. Castillo trial. It was with Pete.
Oh, Hardy.
No, it wasn't Hardy.
Herndon?
No, who's the guy?
Castillo?
Yeah, it was the guy who's like a Republican, strategist now. Chad did a trial.
Oh,
there.
Scotty.
Scotty.
Oh, yes.
Scotty. I was in front of
Oh,
Scotty.
that wasn't from Scotty.
Yeah, but Antonio Castillo, I think he was convicted of what? Attempted murder, a couple other things?
Yes, attempt murder. I think, was there a robbery or bat with use?
I think about
Yeah.
it. But the whole point is like, we both genuinely like that guy.
Yeah, and that guy was
it.
actually a good guy, man. I liked him.
I think that's the worst too. Like some of my first experiences dealing with criminal defendants that are our clients, and we're appointed. I remember one guy, and I'm not going to say his name, but it was like, he was genuinely a gentle, nice person, and had gotten wrapped up with a couple of other knuckleheads who kind of led him down this path. But they ended up jumping, they jumped right into the deep end in terms of severity and kind of the consequences. And I know he's out now because I've looked him up, but he did like 10 years, and he was like 19 years old.
Yeah.
And it was like, certainly that guy needed a consequence for his actions, but it's also, you're like, this is not who this person is. And that to me was one of the roughest parts. And one of the reasons too why I think it takes a toll on you after a while. So when I went to do prosecution work, that was one of the things that was in the back of my mind, is like, I don't know if I can keep seeing people make these terrible decisions.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, and some people, I like to say that everybody has a chance, but some people, like, deck's really stacked against them.
Oh, 100%.
yeah.
Especially if they open their mouth and start talking and,
So true.
do the government's work for them.
Yeah. The less you say, the better when you're in court in
Right.
in either setting, actually. So now, in terms of dealing with people, having that perspective, like, walk me through what's your philosophy when you get on that bench.
Oh, this is the easy thing, right? Like, I've been in all courts in this state. I've been in front of the Supreme Court. I've been in a lot of different district courts. I've been in multiple muni courts. I was a public defender in Las Vegas, where I'm running for judge. I was a public defender in Henderson, where I'm now a prosecutor. And so you see, sort of how the system interacts, first of all, and then you see what a good judge and what probably a not so good judge can do. So, it's pretty easy. First thing is to be on time. There is nothing worse than sitting in court, and your court's supposed to start at 8:30 a.m.
Matt, just for the record, Matt Lake just lost my vote. Right there, he lost my vote.
Well, I'm not saying 8:30. What would be an acceptable time? Let's say 10:30. Nothing worse than having a 10:30 start time, and it's now 1 o'clock. You've missed lunch, and the judge is nowhere to be found, or the judge is taking a phone call, or the judge is doing whatever they do.
There's a certain judge in Henderson. It's funny. After his 9 o'clocks, he's supposed to have 9:30s, but he goes and he plays basketball, right? Every day.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
You are such a liar.
I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about.
Let me say this right now. Matt is one of the funniest dudes in the world. However, whatever we're having right now is like professional Matt that I just don't get. Because I was actually going to begin the podcast by saying, let's take an over-under on how many times Matt subtly insults me in the hour we do this. And I was going to say 10 is the number. I'd probably take the over.
I'm sitting on an amazing story just for this podcast. So be on time. The second thing is to be nice. And all three of us, we're all on the same track for a really long time.
Yeah.
And we have experience with kind of the same orbit of people. But you get some judges that just don't have the temperament and don't, for whatever reason, it's a very unpleasant experience to be in their courtroom. And some of it is, you get people who are former prosecutors and have a dim view of defense attorneys, or you have the opposite of that, or whatever the reason is. It's not all the same, but it's one of those where you look in the morning and you see what you got to do for the day, and you're like, oh no, I got to go in front of this judge. Or, it's extra work because you got to really prep your clients and make sure they don't go in there and shoot themselves in the foot.
And you got to go, you got to kiss the rain. You got to make sure that
100%.
the judge is aware.
And do it their way.
Yeah.
The other thing is to make a decision. I can't tell you how many times I've been in there and the judges are not willing to make a decision in front of you, first of all, take it under advisement. And some cases, I think, need to be taken under advisement. There's a complex issue. Taking it under advisement just means the judge is going to go think about it and issue a decision later on. But also a lot of it could just be done there, and it's overly cautious. It's, I think, a decision-making disorder. And I'm not going to do that. I will make a decision, and I'll stand by my decisions and be accountable for my decisions. I'm not afraid to do that. So it's an easy three things to remember. Do you want to hear my sweet story?
Yes.
Okay, so when we used to share an office downtown, the three of us. And my kid was probably 4 or 5.
Henry?
Yeah, Henry, my oldest kid. He was 4 or 5, and I bring him into the office, and I prepped him really well. And he meets Ben for the first time, and Jess was there, and some other guys. And my son, he's really good about shaking hands, and we always work on him with kind of being a little adult. We always call him our little ambassador. And he shakes Ben's hand, and he goes, Ben, what happened to your hair?
Did I tell him he was adopted?
You gave me a really dirty look.
Did he see Harvey Wallbanger ever?
No. I would also text you. During COVID, a lot of court was on what they call blue jeans, which is the worst name for a court.
Zoom.
Yeah. Well, but blue jeans was the one. And so I would be at home appearing, and then Ben would show up actually to court. And so I would text him like to move his head because there was a glare coming off of his head. And then
Well, we're at 2, by the way. I want to point out in less than a minute.
he would turn around
In less than a minute.
and
we're at 2.
look at the camera almost like as a signal to me, like I'm paying attention.
COVID was so weird. When people were on Zoom or Blue Jeans, like, some of the attorneys would do shit, and you're like, what are you doing? There's one guy who has a condo in Laguna, and he would go out there, and he'd always like be on the camera facing the ocean. So you'd see like, oh, I'm at Laguna.
Yeah, subtle flex. There was a dude who was always out there, and he was in a golf cart, and it was, I think, in San Diego. But he would be in a golf shirt. He wouldn't have the hat on, obviously, because that would be disrespectful. Yeah. But you could see the golf carts behind him.
And I works with him right now, Jess.
Yes.
When he's there.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Or like you would have people driving while they were doing it, which was always kind of fraught. And then I saw a defendant, not my defendant, but a defendant of some sort, I think smoking marijuana.
I've seen, yeah, I saw that a couple
before
of times.
the court started, because they would, the court would have like a giant television, and they'd have all the little feeds from all the different participants up on the screen, and you would see each one like in a thumbnail. And this guy, I saw another guy go to the bathroom. I mean, you saw everything. It was nuts.
I had one defendant. It looked like she just got out of bed and she was butt ass naked.
Oh, I thought wasn't she under her blanket?
Yeah, she was under the blanket, and it was in front of Hardy. And she was just covered in bed still on blue jeans.
Then you could see the headboard, and you're just, what are you doing?
Or dirty rooms was another one. There was a defense attorney who would do it from his bedroom, but he wouldn't make his bed, and the bed would be the background.
Oh my God, that would fucking blow your shit out. There was another one. There was a defense attorney who, he would do it from the treadmill all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just be sweaty, like a little bit out of shape. So maybe he jiggled. And so it was like him on the treadmill, sweaty, jiggling, half out of breath, trying to talk to the judge. And he's just so distracting. You're like, what the fuck is going on in your head?
Yeah, please stop working out.
Yeah.
Can you stop? Yeah, can you just take a break?
For the love of God, stop.
Get those steps in.
So, yeah, that's actually a good point. Like, one of the things I did when I was a prosecutor, because I did the reverse method.
Yeah, that's right.
I went prosecutor to defense attorney. He went defense attorney to prosecutor. Like, one of the hardest things I had in terms of, reconciling shit is, even though you're putting somebody in jail, like when you're doing misdemeanors, the most they can do is 180 days, unless you're in front of some crazies like Kearns used to be, and then all of a sudden things run consecutive.
Right.
I go out of my way to.
Yeah, I
Like, how is your mindset? Like, you're putting somebody in jail, you know what I mean? As a prosecutor, and technically the judge does a blah, 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 but you're the one asking for jail. And it's like I talked about before, even if it's 30 days, if you're in jail for 30 days, you're losing your job.
Right.
You're probably losing your apartment.
Sure.
And so, but I mean, I know the consequence of certain actions is you got to go,
right.
But like, did you have an issue handling that when you first switched over?
I was cognizant of that fact, and I was thinking about it. There's kind of a ripple effect, right? It's not just the person that's going away. They're going to lose their job, or they're going to lose their apartment, we say those things, but those are frequently issues that you raise as a defense attorney. Like, hey, look, this is really, maybe someone's got newly found sobriety or whatever, but this is really going to set them back. And, maybe they got a bigger case and they did some time, and this, they've been brought to court in custody, and this has been going on and on. But you'll have people that have family members and they're kind of the sole breadwinner. You'll have kids that count on these people. So there's a lot of things at stake when someone goes to jail. Now, with that being said, when the case is violent, when the case is like something that affects community safety in a major way, those are kind of the easier cases. But it's always hard when someone's got, if they're trying to make a decision or they're trying to make a difference, in their lives, they're trying to get clean, they're trying to get employment, they're trying to get out of homelessness, whatever the case may be. Those are always things that I kind of try and look at, because not everybody's perfect, number one. And number two, like, what their version of success looks like is not going to be exactly my version. And so you kind of got to take them at what they are. And if they're making that positive kind of stride or effort, you have to recognize that in some way. The weirdest thing for me side note, if I had it to do all over again, I think I would do what you did. I feel like you're almost...
Steroids?
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. What is that?
For the record, I want to put this on the record.
Human growth hormone.
Just did testosterone replacement therapy, just like I did. But he always likes to steroids to me.
HIPAA violation.
Testosterone. Fuck off. Testosterone replacement therapy. I might do some other stuff now, but it's all through my doc, so fuck off.
Yeah, it's all legal. Legal.
He also does all the Henderson cops, just saying.
There's nothing wrong with those guys. So in any event, I would start with prosecution. It's almost like, to me, it's akin to learning like a magic trick. You see, really, sometimes these cases are not as good as you would have believed they were if you only came from the defense side.
Yeah.
So, a lot of it is sort of bluffing and negotiating, and it would have been valuable to be a defense attorney with that perspective. But also, the weirdest thing is when you have friends that a week ago you were sitting in court, BSing with, waiting for the court to start, and now you've got to tell them like, hey, I can't give you the drop down, or I can't give you a reckless, like, you got to kind of be the bad guy, and this is someone you were joking around. So navigating that, I anticipated that would be a problem. But it's something I ended up working out, and you just got to do what you got to do. And I think everyone pretty much understands that's involved in the criminal justice system.
And that is true. One of the things I always say is if you're going to law school or anything like that, usually the joke is don't go. But the thing I always recommend to people, when you get out of law school, don't try to go to law. Like, government work is good in that you're getting free training. So going to the public defender's office, going to a prosecutor's office, they will train you in that area.
Right.
And they will give you perspective. Because when you come out of any school, be it law school, undergrad, whatever, you just have this like pie in the sky attitude of, oh, I could do everything. And it quickly gets just smashed out of there.
Well, I also think too, like when there's something to be said for going into an office, like in an institutional setting, like you're going to work for a government agency, you have a couple of years before you vest, you can figure out if that situation is good for you. But the other thing that was so crazy, moving to that later on, 11 years into my career, I'd never had staff. I was like the admin person.
Yeah.
So I was spending more time running a business and making sure things got filed and they were filed the right way, or that my appendix to the Supreme Court was proper. And when I got to this job, we have a lot of different support staff that support what we do, and they all kind of have a role that supports that. And I didn't have to do those things anymore. And I kind of felt like, wow, I can be a real lawyer now. Like I can research and write. And I'm not flying by the skin of my teeth every second.
We talk about that a lot, because when you have your own firm, it is like you're more of a businessman.
Yeah.
Businessman at a lot of
Businessman.
We got to take care of all the licenses and all of that stuff yourself.
And one of the things you don't learn in whatever professional school you go, even business school, you don't learn how to run a business.
No. Or even to do those things, like learning to file something. Like there's no, maybe a PDF online, but you still have to go and do all of those things.
I still, 20 years in, don't know how to file anything.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is when you finish, like for me, not having to do that anymore, like the impulse to hold on to those things is really strong. Like, oh, I can file this, or I can do this. And it's like, let people do their job and let them help me. And that's been a difficult transition, but I'm there now.
Mm-hmm. One of the things I think that I feel competent to say is that the city attorney's office, especially in Las Vegas, and like, I'm not trying to throw shade, I love you guys, all that stuff, but the city of Las Vegas, actually all the municipalities now, with maybe the exception of Northtown, have a very, very close relationship between the prosecution and the judiciary.
Right.
A, do you see that as an issue? And B, if you do, what's your take on it? And C, if you don't, what's your take on that?
No, I think I agree with you. And I think that's a conversation just in looking at blogs or other things that are, attenuated to local issues. I think you see a lot of people having that discussion. A lot of the last couple appointments by the governor for district court, Pete Tennell was the last.
Who was on this show and was appointed?
And a great guy.
Oh,
I'm not trying to throw shade at him at all, but just to show it's kind of been a succession of people who are in the prosecutor's office. I know in the city of Las Vegas, for example, there's a couple people that you could point to that either came from Clark County District Attorney's Office or came from the city of Las Vegas Attorney's Office. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm not a prosecutor right now. I'm certainly a prosecutor. But I'm the only one in this race. I'm the only one that I can think of that has had, in the city of Las Vegas, that has had that dual experience where I was a defense attorney and a prosecutor. I think you need that. You need that perspective. You need someone in there that is, and I'm not just saying defense attorney and prosecutor. You need all sorts in there.
Well, one of the things, I'm cutting you off like to a minimum, but like also like you, much like me, much like Jess, much like Tams, you didn't grow up with a lot.
No.
You're not a silver spoon kid.
Right.
And so it might be woke to some of you folks, but like there's a perspective you have as having to work early, to struggle, to try, that is valuable, don't you think?
I agree. And I think the point you made earlier about running a business, I mean, if you have staff, you have to make sure that those people get paid. And if you have clients that you're representing in a personal capacity, like the buck stops with you. If something doesn't get filed, that's on you. If you miss a court appearance, that's on you. And so a lot of, it's kind of the converse of what I just said, where going into an office with so many people is kind of an interesting situation. When you're out there all on your own, you're on your own and the buck stops with you. And so I think there's something to be said about having those experiences, especially when you've got private attorneys that are appearing in front of you, that they have a whole host of things that happen in their practice that don't happen to government attorneys. And so I do think you need people that have had that experience and can, even just in the courtroom, but also, how the court treats those types of situations. You can be a voice for that kind of thing.
And that's the thing, though, like, for instance, coming from where we came from, our educational background, professional background, and all those things, like, one of the things you have, especially at the municipal court level, is you have, like, payments. And you have these status checks and people come in. I think all three of us would be confident in saying we know when people are actually trying to pay.
Yes.
Versus the people who are,
just hoping the case gets resolved or you'll do it for free.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, and I remember there was a judge, I'm not going to name his name, but he was in city of Las Vegas for a long time. And he would always ask, I was a public defender in this department, and he would always ask, how are you with Mr. Green? And at first I was like, what does he mean by that? And he was asking the defense attorney, have you been paid yet? And he was kind of receptive to that. I mean, and you get people sometimes as a prosecutor that say like, hey, can we continue this? I haven't gotten paid yet. And you have to look and kind of factor that in. But it's certainly something to consider. I mean, there's a whole host of things that happen just for these privately retained defense attorneys. And I don't know necessarily in the last couple of years, you see a lot of those people going onto the bench.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it is weird. Like, we're at that age now where our friends are becoming judges.
Super weird. It's crazy, too, because people I went to undergrad with that I knew when I was in a fraternity when I was 18 years old, or like, at the University of Michigan as a neuro, what do you call it? Like a doctor that works on your head. Like
neurosurgeon?
Neurosurgeon, yeah, sorry. Or other people that went to law school and are judges now. It's super weird.
Yeah. No, I definitely, from my high school, there are definitely a few people where you see where they're at now. All right, and so, obviously, your wife, state senator, you've gone through a few elections now. This last one was a little bit rougher, if I remember.
It was. It's two things. One is she's had an election. She got appointed to the assembly first in 2018, and then in Nevada, the legislature meets every 2 years in the odd year. And so when she wasn't in the assembly, then that next year she would have an election because she was up. And then at some point, I can't remember exactly when, moves over to the Senate. This is the first year in like 7 years she hasn't had an election. And so, of course...
Oh, because they do 4 years as a senator.
Yeah, right. And so, of course, it was for me, hey, I'm going to run now. Surprise. So it's weird, too, because I've been sitting there, supporting her and listening kind of on the other side of the phone calls, just hearing about her races and, walking or doing things for her. And I'd never been a candidate before. And so now it's kind of a role reversal for us. So it's an interesting, we talk about it all the time about, what we experience in this kind of new era of our lives.
Yeah. And what's funny is when you run for assembly, when you get elected, like you said, it's 2 years, but you have to go up to Carson City from what, June?
No, you go from February, like the first week of February. It's typically like February 2nd or 4th. And then you go 120 days. So it's usually the first week of June. But the weekends count, for example, but you don't get holidays. And especially at the end, things start to tighten up quite a bit. So there will be 2 or 3 weeks where she won't be home.
Yeah, and you have the kids, right?
Yeah, when we first started, I think my kids were like 5 and 7. And so I remember being up there and like, we had to beat a blizzard the first year. This is like 2019. And my kids were both like, I want to see my mommy. And that was really hard. And I get that and I understand it. But now
there is no mommy till June.
Yeah.
I am your mommy.
14 and 16 years old.
Now they're like, get out.
Yeah, please. I don't want to see you anymore.
You're not cool, Dad.
Yeah. The other thing too is, with her last election, it was pretty bruising. I mean, she had to raise a lot of money.
She had a primary, right?
Yeah, she did. And it was crazy that the person that ran against her lived in our neighborhood.
Awkward.
Yeah.
Like, I knew who ran against her, but like, I didn't realize it was that close.
Yeah. Like I would say, quarter mile away from our house.
Oh,
And so, that was tough. But, my wife, the one thing, I can say that I've known her since she was 20 years old. She's very tough, and it's kind of a quiet toughness. And, when things like this present them, she doesn't complain. She doesn't make excuses. She just buckles down and she'll work her ass off. And that's what she did. And that's why
Asian mentality.
She
Tiger Mom, that race.
I always call myself a tiger mom, but I'm not.
I'm kind of like a Tiger Mom by association.
I'm not a tiger mom because I don't have, my kid puts so much pressure on herself. Let me.
Yeah.
She was pissed she's number 2 in the school. She's pissed.
What grade is she in?
For a freshman.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've got my kid's going to be, my oldest is going to be a junior, and then my daughter's going to be a freshman.
So really going to school?
Clark.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a magnet school, and they're both really gifted with math, so it speaks to their interests.
I'm not going to mention any stereotypes right now. So
I am terrible at math. I will tell you that.
I
That's
got that from Michelle.
part of the reason I have a history degree and I'm a lawyer is because I'm not a mathematician.
I can't. No.
Yeah, Jess is actually an anomaly. He is terrible.
Horrible. Horrible at
Just can't math.
I can't math at all.
Sorry, Jess.
Yeah.
It's got to be.
It's like a disability here, family.
Yeah. His grace. I just honored him.
So that's why you chose law.
Yeah.
But so has Henry decided what he wants to do yet?
No, we've been going to lots of. Every time we'll take a vacation, we'll try and hit up some sort of college experience.
Oh, yeah.
And so, it's kind of like we're at the stage, do you want to be on the East Coast or the West Coast? Do you want to be at a big school, a small school? We're still trying to narrow it down. And it's kind of informal where we'll take them around and I'll have ChatGPT give me like an itinerary. So we're not doing the official, but I think this summer we got a couple trips planned where he's going to get the full kind of college experience. And the strangest thing is like one year he was like an 8th grader and they had him go up to UNR and he lived in the dorms for one of the summer sessions.
Yeah.
And so he got 2 400 level college credits out of it, two different classes.
Yeah.
And it was in history, but it was, there were kids that were doing like some sort of like biology type thing and kids that were doing math. And he just got put into this history thing. And it was really great because he got to experience what it would be like to go to college. And so I think he's ready for it. It's just a matter of figuring out, money, first of all, and then also, what is it that he wants to do and where would be the best place to do?
Wow.
What about you?
And it's funny you mentioned that because my daughter's like decent at soccer. And so she had a showcase in North Carolina.
Oh, wow.
So we're in North Carolina, and my kid, to her credit, she was doing homework. And we were trying to stay out of the jet lag. So we were staying up late, stuff like that. But
Keeping the same schedule.
yeah.
But
there were people on her team and they're like, oh, what'd you guys do? Oh, we went to this college. We went to this college. And we door dashed and
Watch movies.
yeah, we were literally in the Verbo until the game, did the game, then went out with the team, then went back.
did you have to put together like a sizzle reel for your
Now she's a freshman. Next year, the year after.
They'll do it. Yeah. That's exciting.
Yeah. It's interesting, but yeah. And it's funny you mentioned the East Coast because I could have got juiced in to Harvard
Oh, okay.
through my uncle. And I was like, I just can't do it. Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. Could have gone to Harvard for law school too. I had the numbers.
I always knew you had a big head for a reason.
Public school all the way, except for high school.
Yeah.
Public school all the way.
Good for you.
And that's what's funny. And the thing I always talk about is the reason I went so personal injury heavy is, from the crim is A, it's more lucrative. B, kind of like you're tired of having to deal with people's bad choices.
Right.
And so you kind of get burned out. But, when my kid is like, I want to go to Stanford and you look at her numbers and like, holy shit, she might be able to.
Wow.
You go, all right, I got to afford Stanford.
Right.
And so.
Well, that's the thing when you're doing well at like PI or being an attorney or whatever, you're going to have to foot a lot of that bill yourself.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I think that's great too. When you've got a kid who's got something that's on their radar, like I want to go to Stanford or I want to play soccer or they have something they're passionate about. I think that's awesome because it gives you something to kind of feed into and support.
Yeah.
We've really spent a lot of time with our kids, trying to, help develop whatever they're passionate about and then nurture that. So, later on, they're not going to law school, for example, because, maybe we don't know what to do or, drifting, wasting money.
Yeah. No, the thing is and this part I guarantee you is going to get cut. But
Yeah, cut that. Cut all of it.
no, this part I'm about to do. One of the things is my kid is just so fucking competitive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like that's her drive. That's why she's just competitive. It does help that she got my side of the athletic ability.
Yeah.
No offense, Marlo. But but if I remember correctly, like didn't you say like Henry is spectacularly unathletic?
Oh yeah, and I am too. I am a horrible athlete. I've never been good. I could practice every day for a year at some sport and I would be probably back at square one. Like my athletic skills just don't develop. I don't have that gene or whatever it is. My mom was she was a teacher, but I think one of her degrees or like specializations was in PE. She's also early childhood education. And she was like athletic and did athletic things, but I didn't get any of that. My wife was a college swimmer and my daughter definitely got those genes. So it's like watching her be good at a sport. It's like,
Fuck yeah, that's my kid.
well, it's awesome, but I don't know. I have no idea what that feels like. I was always most improved.
Hey, Jess,
Yeah, it's terrible.
Jess, who was the high school male athlete of the year? Your senior year.
Jess Matsuda, 1998, Millennium High School.
And I have
Are
heard
there
that
for karate?
every fucking guy. Since 2008.
Aikido, judo, all those things.
All martial arts.
All martial arts.
Yes. Or running.
Or running. Basketball.
6 feet and under.
No. No such
Strike me as like one of those little like a Muggsy Bogues type that dribbles really fast. Yeah. You probably got hops. You can probably dunk with.
No, probably no.
I could dunk.
He
but
doesn't
like,
have a knee.
Yeah. In high school, I had a knee.
Now he can. That's how he learned his knee.
In high school, I had a knee.
We got to cut this one part. But when my kid, my oldest kid, he was like in the.
I retain all editorial control.
He was at the first grade, right?
Yeah.
And he went to this school, and this I want to bring this point up when we go back on, but he was at this like Bracken, which is a magnet school, and it's down at like the hood, like 27th and Lake Mead. You know, like it's like you recognize like I know that gang graffiti, but the school is old and dilapidated, but it's a really great magnet. It was a great magnet school. So we go for our first like parent teacher conference. And the school is one of those, there's no interior. Like you don't go into the school, like all the buildings are accessible from the outside. And they have a sit down and there's like the PE surface and there's a group of kids that are about my kid's height, but they're all playing PE. And I'm sitting
PE
there.
isn't a thing.
Well, they're playing with beanbags. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching these kids and I nudged my wife and I was like, that kid can't throw at all. And then I looked a little closer. I was like, oh shit.
My kid.
That's my kid. So I was like, I really didn't want to like push him and be like, you've got to be a jock or you've got to do this. But maybe like I realized in hindsight to like his own detriment. It's like, okay, we got to work on throwing a ball.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing. Like both Jess and I didn't really have dads growing up.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? And so like a lot of that shit you don't necessarily learn from your dad.
Right.
But like
You had older brothers, didn't you?
like they were assholes.
Oh, okay.
Beat me the whole time.
Yeah, see, it made you tough though.
Yeah, exactly. Like Asian Tiger Month. But with my kid, it was about socialization. I didn't give a shit about athletic ability or any of that. I just said, you have to be doing something because you have to learn because she's my kid. So she's a bit of an asshole, right?
No, I get it.
Yeah. And so you do have to learn how to socialize, how to, what do you call it? Compromise.
Yeah. It's the thing. For me, it was like putting the kids in school. We didn't have a problem pulling them out because it would be like, they're just here at this, up until 5th grade, they're just here to learn how to get along with other kids and like navigate that social situation.
Sure.
So I get that.
I got a wedding to go to on Saturday in Provo because my niece is going to BYU.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Right.
That's exciting.
And so my daughter was trying to get out of it because she wants to study for a test and she has to try out for a certain choir group at her school.
Yeah.
And she's freaked out. She's like, there's 100 people trying out. And I'm like, bitch, you're on all-state choir as a freshman.
Yeah.
Like, stop it.
Yeah.
You have like all-star teams for choir?
She's already 3-time all-state.
They have different levels for almost
I did
everything.
not know that.
Yeah. She's all county, which they call honor choir. And she's all state, but she's been 3 years running.
They do it with orchestra too. They have like, beginner, intermediate, and then like chamber orchestra, which is like the highest.
So are you saying like...
Clark High School has the best chamber orchestra.
So you're saying you have an Asian daughter who plays the violin?
No, we don't. What does she play? She plays the piano.
What does she? What does she play?
Lois Shao. Yeah. That was the girl, elementary through high school. Lois Shao, 4 hours a day on the fucking keys.
Yeah, we have like
Never touched it after that.
Well, we have a huge stick, and then if she makes a mistake, I can just sit at the chair and smack her on the hands. And my voice is loud; she'll hear it. She knows. She knows that tone.
But here's the thing too, like, let's get back to this because I actually wanted to bring it up, and if it's in, it's in. If it's not, it's not. But like, when Ro goes out of town, like to go up to Carson City, you don't have 2 kids, you have 3.
Well, it's true.
You have your kids, but then you have her dad.
Well, and this is the thing too. This is part of the reason, in addition to like seeing people make bad decisions, you are dealing with kids. Like you have to make sure. For a while, we were doing Kumon, which is like a math helper for kids. So you were taking them to Kumon and then sitting there, but you had to get home from work in time, and then maybe you're doing phone calls while the kids are at Kumon, and then you have to get home and make them dinner, and then you throw in swim practice into that, and sometimes you're not getting home. And my father-in-law, he's 80 now, but he can't see at night, so it's like after the sun goes down, like in the winter, he's very helpful, and I'm not trying to say he's not, but he can't be as helpful because it's a safety thing. But it's really hard, and it goes for 120 days, but like as Rochelle has kind of moved up in the legislature, there are certain committees she's on, and then those committees start meeting 2 weeks before the session, and then they start, And
there were a couple of times she went to D.C., right?
Oh, yeah. There's lots of, throughout the year, there are things where she has to leave and go to, a conference for whatever she's involved in with the legislature. And so it really does put quite a strain. And it's funny, when she got appointed, one of the other, not the assembly person, but the family member pulled me aside and kind of tried to clue me into what I was in for. And
that's like the assembly member in my district back in the day was a person I didn't necessarily agree with. And I was thinking about running against her. And then I was thinking like, there's no way in fuck I'm going to be able to go up to Carson City for 4 months.
Well, and that's the other thing. You got to close down your business. So in addition to doing all that stuff after work, my wife and I both we were appointed attorneys. So you work as like a public defender.
And that's Jess and I were appointed attorneys as well. And you're assigned to a specific courtroom. And Matt, Jess, and I were in the same courtroom. We were on the same, we call it a track. How long were you on the same track for?
I think I was there from like 2015 to 21 or 22.
Yeah, that sounds more easy.
But in any event, my wife had a track as well. We were on different tracks. But when she left, I would cover our track, and then I would cover her track. And then I was also doing the CJA panel, which is the equivalent thing in the feds, and we were the public defender in Henderson. So I was trying to keep all of those things running during the day. And then, inevitably there would be one client on her track that had to have their trial. So it would be like all of a sudden you're throwing a 2-week trial into the middle of that.
And then you got to get covered for your other tracks.
Yeah, it's just, I didn't mind being a small business owner, but I didn't want to be that kind of small business owner. So that played into my decision to kind of say, I can't keep doing this.
Yeah.
I want to support my wife, of course, it takes a huge toll. Even with my wife, like if she wasn't in the job she had, she wouldn't be able to just close things up for 4 months and take off.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how that system works and how it's conducive, but at the same time, at the time she started, I think they were getting paid $4,000 a session. So
for 4 months, you're getting paid $4,000. So it's $1,000 a month.
Yeah, there's this kind of misconception that legislators in our state are, they do it so they can make the big bucks. And it's like, no, the people that are doing it are like making huge, incredible sacrifices. Their families are making sacrifices. And the pay, it's not for the pay. They're getting $4,000. They're doing it because they love what they do and they want to make a difference. And, I think that is something like an obstacle that keeps qualified people, in a lot of cases, we would have kind of a more diverse or a bigger pool of people to draw from if things were a little different there.
And I will say, his wife is doing an amazing job, love her to death. But I suggested something to her and she laughed in my face, so I hate her.
I make suggestions all the time.
I just simply suggested that maybe trucks shouldn't be allowed in the fast lane. That's all I suggested. She laughed at me. Now, in my current job as a personal injury attorney, I love trucks being in the fast lane. However, screw you, Rochelle, for not listening to my input.
It's one of those things where when she first started, she would like at least humor me, like look at me like, oh, I'm listening to you. Like, yeah, it's a good point. I don't know if that's a feasible idea. And now it's just like, her back is to me and I just hear a noise like, huh.
But so like, and how does that like, being a full-time father and for 4 months out of the year or for every other year being essentially a single father, like how does that factor into your philosophy when you're going to be sitting in that room?
It's one of those things like, I've done it enough now, so I know what I'm getting into. It's kind of like when you have a baby and everyone's like, man, you're not going to sleep. And you're like, oh, okay. Or it's like, go to the movies and watch a movie because you're not going to be able to do that. And doesn't mean anything to you because you haven't been through it.
Yeah.
And then like that first week, the baby's crying all night. You're like, oh, this is what they meant. I'm never going to sleep again.
Yeah.
And for me, I've been doing it for 7 years. So my kids are older now. Like one of my kids is on the cusp of driving. My father-in-law still lives with us. And so I feel like everybody's kind of got the system down. We're not in the same, my kids don't need as much of me now. But you know, it's the other thing too. It's to have that experience, a very unique experience, but it translates into being in front of people and making decisions about potentially their lives, but always remembering like, you never know what somebody's going through. You never know what they have on their plate.
Yeah.
And, you know, you've kind of got to try to the best of your ability to understand or put yourself in their shoes, you know, at least give them the courtesy of considering what they're telling you.
And so essentially what you're saying is in addition to the crime, which is a big deal of what you're there for, you do have to factor other considerations in.
100%. And I think it's a given, you know, I don't want to harp on that, but the safety of the community is, I think, the paramount thing.
Yeah.
And I think we're all kind of coming there. I don't want to speak for you guys, but it's like everyone kind of understands that. But there are these other considerations that I think go beyond that. And you have to work those in. I mean, is it really worth putting someone in custody on a nonviolent offense? Let's say they have a bad record, but you know, they're trying to make the right decisions and they've had a setback, a drug setback. You know, people who are addicted to drugs are going to relapse sometimes. You know, are you going to put them in jail for that? Or are you going to try and help them keep that momentum going? You know, certainly they need to be supervised or whatever the case may be, but you know, not every problem's a nail that needs to be hammered into the ground.
No, and agreed. And one of the things I think that's important to differentiate, at least, you know, for me, when I'm talking to judges and assessing, you know, whether they'd be a good judge or not, is this idea that does community safety mean that the city attorney is going to be in your back pocket the entire time? You know, in addition to that, there's something called alternative sentencing where you do your classes and stuff like that. Like one of the things you'll see in a lot of courtrooms is the idea that alternative sentencing is something that needs to be funded essentially by defendants.
Yeah, I get that. And I think you get the optics of like, you know, are we doing this to perpetuate alternative sentencing? Or are we doing this because this is what the community needs and this is what the defendants need to be successful? You know, kind of like the allegation that there's a traffic ticket quota. It's, you know, to fund police things or.
The non-quotas, they're statistics.
Well, I'm not saying that exists. I'm just saying the notion or the idea. But then you've got the idea too. Like I did specialty courts for a long time. I
forgot about that. You were like the specialty.
I was the defense attorney in adult drug court in the judicial district court. And you would see it a lot. Like that is an intense program. It can take up to 3 years. And, you know, Henderson has an equivalent for misdemeanors, but like a lot of times people can't work for that first time. And so they're on public assistance essentially, or they're receiving like vouchers of some sort to live and exist. But you will see people that almost get so overloaded with requirements and then it's just setting them up to fail.
Wow.
And the other thing you see sometimes is that you get people who are coming up with these deals kind of trying to take the place of the therapeutic people that are involved in the court, like the psychologists or the drug treatment people.
Every city attorney thinks they're a drug expert.
And substituting their, you know, what they think is right for the expertise of the other people.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful about that.
Agreed. And one of the things I've always talked about, and like this is kind of sensitive, so if you don't want to answer it, I totally get it. But like, in my opinion, especially at the municipal court level, the amount they're charging for traffic tickets, like to somebody who's fortunate like us, it's like, oh, that sucks, but here you go.
I'll just go take it.
Yeah. But if you're poor, like all of a sudden you have $2,000 in traffic tickets, you're going to fall behind in your payments. They suspend your license for not showing up to court. And it's like this downward cycle, you know. And
I remember, I think one of the first cases I didn't prosecute. I was coming kind of in the aftermath, but I was in court and this lady owned like $10,000 in traffic tickets. And, you know, one of the things that happens when you get a traffic ticket, if you don't show up to court, they'll assess a warrant penalty, which was typically in the range of $150.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And those things, if you've got no license, no insurance, no registration, there's $450. And if that happens 3 or 4 times, you know, now you're up to over $1,200. And then you've got the fines, you know, in Henderson for insurance, it's $740, registration is $640. So you've got all these things. What happens is, and this is kind of like the unintended consequences or the ripple effect, is that you have people now that can't afford to register their car, or you have people that can't afford to get car insurance, or you have people that can't afford to get their license because then they go to the DMV and the DMV wants them to pay, you know, you're in arrears. So it's another kind of handout. And I sometimes question the wisdom of all of that. Like, who is this benefiting? Because we're never going to get this money. And then at the end, let's say they put someone in jail because they haven't paid their fines. It's going to cost whatever it costs to house.
So usually like $75 a day.
I think it's like 160 something.
Yeah.
but you're paying for that. So
Yeah. So not only do you have to wipe out their fees, which is like, 5, 10 grand, whatever it is, you're also paying for them to be in custody.
well, but the other thing too, the flip side you have to think about is the reason we have such high insurance rates in the state of Nevada and particularly in Clark County is because we have a lot of uninsured motorists and we have people doing this daredevil stuff on the road and putting everyone's lives at risk. And, so you have to think about the people that are paying the taxpayers. You also have to think about the fact that, they have an interest in making sure that people are licensed and insured and registered. So, those are all kind of the complex things that go on in a municipal court decision. For something you'd think, oh, it's traffic, but, it's a pretty involved decision.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was that your car?
Hope not.
Jess, thoughts?
Let's hear what you got. They want you to talk more, Jess. Let's hear what you got to say.
Here's one thing. Someone once told me, and it was kind of an interesting take, and I never really thought about it because I started primarily as a defense attorney. I worked at the AG's office straight out of law school.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it was like a 3-month internship, clerkship thing. But I've ultimately been a defense attorney my whole career. And I always thought it was from a perspective or personal perspective of I could try to help someone. If they get into trouble, they have a drug problem, whatever it may be, try to not necessarily just agree to prison and let them just rot there and come out and they're worse off. So big believer in alternative sentencing. But a prosecutor told me like they thought they had more power in trying to help someone. And I never really thought of it that way. So it's in terms of trying to, because they make the offers, right?
Right.
They get a case, they try to resolve it. They think, here's what I'm giving you in terms of trying to resolve this case where everyone can agree on.
Right.
And I never thought of it that way where a prosecutor has maybe more power than a defense attorney in trying to help a defendant, which is kind of odd to say, but because you were a defense attorney and a prosecutor, what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, to some extent, I agree. I remember being in district court, and when you are you're going to sentencing, right? For whatever reason, you've gone to trial and you lost, or you've taken a plea deal. Now the sentencing comes, and one of the things you do as a defense attorney is you look at why did this person get involved in this situation? And a lot of times it's either mental illness or drugs, or mental illness and drugs, right? And so you're trying to give the court some sort of presentation like, hey, here's what we can do to help this person. If we had gotten them some drug treatment, or we gotten them some mental health treatment, or we put them in co-occurring court, that might address this person's problems. And so what you're trying to do is to present that to the court. But one of the problems is you might have a prosecutor that disagrees with you and says, I think this person should be incarcerated. And so if you can get the prosecutor to agree, like, hey, look, the state's on board or the city's on board or whatever, it makes your job so much easier in front of a judge.
Sure.
But when you have that kind of adversarial process, and sometimes it's a pie in the sky, you're just trying to mitigate, and that's the only thing you've got. But I certainly do. And I think by and large, the people that I've interacted with in the prosecutor community, they really do care about the community. And when they do things, suggesting an offer, or they do things, kind of drawing a line in the sand and saying, this is what I'm willing to do, they're doing it for a specific reason, not to be vindictive or not to be, to jam the guy up.
Man, some
I'm saying by and large. So, there's some wiggle room on the end, and everybody's got a different opinion on it. But I really do. I mean, when I go in and I'm making offers on a case, it's like, I don't want to throw. We have like a toolbox, right? And we have all these different things we can do in terms of making an offer. You could make them abstain from drugs and alcohol, or you can make them, we call it DART, random drug and alcohol testing, or you can do things like
House arrest.
Yeah, house arrest, or attend an outpatient substance abuse counseling session. You can't just throw everything on there and say, your guys got to do all of these things. Sometimes they need it, but I mean, you can't do that on every case, because at some point, some of your thinking has to be is, what's the benefit of taking a deal?
Yeah.
I could just plead my guy straight up, argue, and probably get a better deal out of this. And at the end of the day, to my point, is it helping the community? Is it helping the defendant just to list everything on? Because you're packing so much onto these guys' plates, at some point they're just going to teeter over. You're setting them up to fail.
Exactly, and that's the thing. When you're setting somebody up to fail, like, what's the benefit to the community in that situation?
I agree. Because they're, you got to take the defendants as they come. And that's why it's so important. to my point about not every problem is a nail that needs to be hammered. You've got to take everybody as they come, and everybody comes in with, different levels of care that they need, for example, or they have different things, different dynamics going on. You have people that never had, a role model really in their life to explain this is how life works and this is acceptable behavior. And so sometimes you got to kind of take the role and put them through a parenting class or, there's a reason for DV classes. But not everybody is the same. Some people have that and they have a drug problem. So you've really got to look at what the people need. And the other thing too, though, is I think when parties come to you, you have the defense counsel and you have the prosecutor. When they put a deal in front of you, they know the case better than you do. And, unless there's some really extenuating circumstance, you've, in my opinion, and having been on the other side when a judge says, yeah, I'm not going to do this, you don't really get an explanation as why they don't think it's appropriate. And, if I were to get elected, I would certainly defer to the parties that are in front of me because they know the case better than anyone else.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything really for you personally that you're like, this is a hot button issue for me?
I think crimes of violence, and I don't mean you get a lot of domestic violence cases where, I've seen them where it's elderly people and they're bickering and they throw sandwiches at each other.
I had one, sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
I had one where they didn't believe in toilet paper. So what they did is they had a bucket with rags.
It's the family cloth is what they call it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
So we do that at our house.
He says that like it's a joke, but he's a very thrifty man.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so but I had one where it was like,
Look, he's pulled it family cloth.
you go.
I'm not lying, guys.
there you go. But there was one where
Oh, that's
chick threw doo-doo water on the guy. Oh. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like, out the bucket. And he was charged with it. She was charged with the domestic violence.
Yeah.
It's, and one of the things, especially at your level, domestic violence is a misdemeanor. All right. So that's supposed to be a lighter
The
crime.
first two are misdemeanors.
I always thought there should be degrees, man.
Well, and that's the thing.
There
With
should be
domestic
degrees.
violence, there are serious consequences. If you're convicted of a domestic violence, you're barred from becoming a citizen.
Right.
So you are never, you never have a path to citizenship.
Second Amendment.
You lose your Second Amendment rights, which is something that happens to felons.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are significant consequences.
I was a recruiter for a pharmaceutical company, and it was here in town. This was kind of between college and graduate school. And we were doing a lot of recruiting because we were ramping up a call center because it was kind of the first of the pharmacy benefits management. And we would recruit 250 people a month. And so I started out doing benefits, and then I started moving to recruiting. And I would have people come in and, we'd have a background service that they do. And that was the absolute disqualifier. Any crime of violence, simple battery, domestic violence. So in addition to the things you're talking about, not getting your firearm, not being able to be a citizen, it's going to keep you from getting a job. So if you make a dumb decision when you're 19, that's really going to affect what's available to you.
Yeah.
Throughout your life.
No, that's definitely true. Yeah, and it's there's some cases where it's you have such a hard time swallowing it.
Yeah.
Because it is something you could have a situation where it's elderly people, or even a situation where, and this happens all the time, custody dispute.
Yeah.
So custody dispute, somebody lies, he coaches the kids to lie to say, oh yeah, he hit me, he pushed me, whatever.
Well, there's a presumption in family law that if you get convicted of battery, domestic violence, you're an unfit parent. Yeah. So you do see that come, what you suspect to be. You never know, but you're looking at the facts and you're like, oh, family law case, that crosses your mind. But I've had people, new parents that were, I think, pretty clearly exhausted, and they're folding the laundry and one threw a pair of socks at the other. And the way our law used to be, you guys know this, if the police came out, they would have to find who's the primary aggressor, and then they would have to arrest the primary aggressor. And so you would see people, and it would be like, this is one in your head, is this one where everyone could have just cooled off for a little bit? But then I've had other ones where a guy got up off of the bed because the victim was breaking up with him, and he did what they call a Superman kick, where he leapt in the air and kicked her, and then she smacked her head into the doorknob and had to get 11 stitches in her head.
Yes.
It was a crazy situation, and those for me, so to back up to your question about what would be kind of my red lines, violence, repeat offenders for community safety crimes. I had a guy yesterday that I prosecuted 8 DUIs, and DUIs are enhanceable, but these had been spaced out enough that they were only ever second offenses.
Yeah.
but 8 is an extreme amount.
8 is a lot.
Yeah. And so, real crimes of violence, extreme violence. For me, I live downtown Vegas, roughly. I'm downtown adjacent.
Yeah. How long did you guys live there?
Since 2013. So about the same time you and I all started working together.
Yeah.
But you go down there and there's this idea of like a food desert where you have communities, and there are communities exist in the Las Vegas Valley that don't have a functional grocery store. And part of that is that, people get desperate and people steal. And then at some point you get stores, like I've seen a Target leave. I've seen Walgreens leave. I've seen a CVS leave, where they say, we can't do business. It's not profitable for us to do business anymore.
So much money.
Or your stuff is all behind lock and key. If you go to the Walmart at Charleston and Decatur and you want razor blades, or you want deodorant, or you want toothpaste, they have someone that their only job is to wander around there and open up things for you.
Well, it's funny too. Is like I live in Southern Highlands, which I guess theoretically is like a nice community.
Yeah.
Same thing. Like Walgreens, everything's locked up.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Well, and for me, that's something like you just see there's an incredible amount of shoplifting, and it goes the whole gamut from someone going in and impulsively stealing food, or doesn't want to stand in the line and does what they call a beer run and takes the beer out.
I might have done that in high school.
It's not going to come out. And then there's thankfully there's a statute of limitation. But then there are things where you see organized retail theft, and they pick up a random misdemeanor petty larceny.
I had a trial in front of Levitt where it was like this national, it fascinated the shit out of me. It was a national, they were jewelry thieves.
Yeah.
And
they
tried
travel around.
Yeah, and they would travel around. And so did the trial. It actually, like the guy was wearing the most like distinctive jacket. It was like, one of those where it's like 5 different panels and they're all the same color, and then he got arrested in that same jacket.
Yeah.
And he's like, wasn't me. And it's like, really? But what's fascinating to me is your companies, like we talked to the regional sales guy, or the regional
He was a witness in your case.
Yeah. And like they double their actual margin, and they say the reason they have to do it is to cover up for organized
For
theft.
theft, yeah.
Yeah. That blew my mind. So something that you're buying at like, say, Zales, that's $2,000, it's actually $1,000, but because of theft,
Yeah.
they have to bump it up.
Well, I remember Joe Burrow, the quarterback for the Bengals. That was a crew from like...
Oh, they got his his stuff at his
Yeah,
at the game.
they happened to pull them over. They were like traveling through the South, and then they did a warrant on the car, and they found jewelry from all of these people in Los Angeles, people in Cincinnati. So there are organized groups that go around. The other thing too is like, I don't, as a prosecutor, I don't like it when people expose children to things. So for example, you see a lot of thievery that happens, and
Where they're pushing the stroller.
and you see that where they put the stuff under the kids because they think nobody's going to see it. But then I'd had a few where the kids are, I look at the dates because I've got a kid that was born in 2010, and I look at the date of birth, and they've got a kid that's my sophomore in high school's age, and they're basically teaching them how to shoplift, or they're teaching multiple kids. And I take a dim view of that.
Yeah, I think we all would. Yeah.
Right.
I had a case where it was, a couple of girls were out, didn't have the best, growing out or background. And long and short, they were trying to steal a car, and, they shot at the guy. And of course, it was one of the casinos where it's ultra.
I was on that case.
Oh, ultra, like 4K video.
Yeah, well, to your point about the guy wearing the very distinctive jacket,
Yeah.
these guys were members of a certain gang, and they were wearing baseball jerseys that had the name of the gang, and I think like maybe the area code. And on that 4K video, they're both wearing those jerseys, and then one of them turns around and looks right into the camera.
Right by the elevator.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was at the Aria.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a crazy case. I ended up taking that one. My guy went to trial.
Didn't go well.
No, it did not. And my guy had fired a gun. To.
Oh, I think your guy. I had his girlfriend.
Okay, yeah, and the victim was in an Audi and was leaving, and they just fired the gun at the guy. And it, you have pillars on a car, so like the A pillar's the front, the B pillar's behind the driver, and then if it's an SUV, there's a C pillar, and the bullet had actually shot through the A pillar on the driver's side. I mean, it was like it was very close to being a homicide.
Yeah, and I remember that case too because we talk about backgrounds and stuff like that. Like that girl was one of like 7 daughters of this one guy.
Yeah.
And he was trying to sleep with all of them. He was trying to turn them all out, which means he was kind of a pimp for his own kids. But the thing is in a situation like that, like how does that kid know the difference between wrong or right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's all they've ever seen.
Yeah.
You know, they don't know any differently.
Yeah.
I also think too, like to my point about desperation, like I don't use it as an excuse, but like sometimes you'll see. I remember a case. There was a series that I worked on when my on my wife's track, and they were hitting cell phone stores, and it wasn't the one we had together with the cell phone.
I was gonna say I had one of those.
Yeah, no, this is a different one. And when they finally tracked these guys, they stole like a bag of iPhones, and they had like a dummy iPhone in there that had a tracker. It was a Verizon store. And so they tracked him and sealed this apartment off. They got a warrant, hit the apartment, and they went in, and the apartment was just like in total disarray. Like it wasn't from anything specific that happened. It was just like there was garbage everywhere. There were no garbage bags, so all the garbage was on the floor. But there was like this stack of Jordans, and it was boxes of Jordans, and that was like clearly the prized possession for some of the people that lived in this apartment. And I certainly can understand like the desperation. I don't condone it, and I'm not trying to say that.
Yeah.
But I certainly understand like if that's what you see and that's kind of like your marker of success, and to not have a legitimate way or have anyone that's demonstrating a legitimate way to obtain those things, I don't condone it, but I can understand how we get to the point we're at.
Yeah. 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 And it's hard, like in a situation where it's a petty larceny, you know, when somebody's stealing stuff, like if they're stealing food to feed their kids,
Right.
it's totally different than they're, you know, ripping off a phone store so that they
Yeah.
can get
Or
Jordans.
you'll see people that'll steal, 10 bottles of Tide, or they'll steal baby formula because they can go out on the street. We had a guy that would go in with a SNAP card and buy, or his EBT card, and buy steaks at Smart and Final, and then try and sell them in the parking lot afterwards. So, there's differences, but certainly you see people that are stealing clean underwear, clean socks. I don't condone it again, but it's a little bit different. You have to be able to differentiate that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what made you decide like, okay, fuck it, I'm going to run?
Well, a couple of things. I live in Vegas, so I have to run in Vegas. I'm very loyal to the idea of the municipal court. When thinking about where I wanted to be, we have different levels of court, as you guys know. So there's the district court, and I think every district court judge is up, or a big majority. There's like 50 judges up right now.
Yeah. My wallet reflects.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
We have a justice court where we have a lot of, each town over a certain size has justice court. But for me, Muni Court was where I wanted to go. And, people will disagree. I talk about this a lot and have this kind of debate, but it's the idea of the broken window, right? If you have a broken window and you don't get it repaired, it's going to attract more, property damage or other types of crime into the neighborhood. And I feel like Muni Courts are really a great way to get a hold of that. And you're dealing with people for the first time. Their only interaction with government is to, they get a traffic ticket, so they're before the Muni Court. Or they commit a petty larceny, they're young and make a dumb decision, they're going into the Muni Court. So those are people that you're going to be able to kind of get a hold of and push in the right direction.
Yeah.
But then also you get a lot of people that are career criminals, but they're sort of low level and what I'll call nuisance crimes. And you'll see it like when you're a prosecutor, you get a stack of criminal history. So there's one that is the FBI feed. They run the NCIC, all 50 states and territories feed into it. And then you get scope, which is just Clark County. So you get to see those, and you get to see, and some of these you can measure with like a tape measure.
Oh, yeah.
But some people you get, and they're 50 years old, and they have, I've seen them where they have 200 charges out of 100 arrests, and their criminal history goes back to the 1980s. Those are people that you kind of have to take out of the community and just give them a long time out so that they stop victimizing the business that they're at, that they're causing problems at, or the neighborhood that they're, everyone knows this guy. He's the guy who breaks things, or he's the guy who gets drunk and causes problems. So it's a really good opportunity to sort of secure the safety of a lot of these neighborhoods. In Vegas, these spots don't pop up very often. And looking at who would be in or out of them, I kind of anticipated, just knowing, I think Susan Roger was an attorney before I even became an attorney. And then I think from like 2012 on, I'd been a judge. So I kind of had my eye on that spot. But for me, it's Muni Courts, and, you can't pick your spot, but you got to be ready when one opens up. So the timing of it is that's what's open, and that's, where I can go. But for me, it's really important. I don't want to be in the district court, and I don't want to be in the justice court. I want to be in the Muni Court.
We have, Jess and I have been downtown near Fremont, literally a block from Fremont Street for 18 months.
Oh, yeah.
There's this one dude, we saw him yesterday. Yeah, saw him yesterday. There's one dude on Fremont Street, black dude,
days ago.
ripped. Always just a buff dude.
jacked.
But he's homeless. And so it's like this weird, like, how the fuck is that guy jacked?
jacked.
But like, he's also always whacked out of his mind.
Yeah.
And so like, he's in and out of, Muni court.
For years, we used to see him in court. Years.
Yeah, you see a lot of repeat customers. There's a lady in Henderson who has been through our system. She's been found not competent. So if you're not competent and it's a nonviolent crime, that the prosecutor can't really proceed because you can't prosecute someone who's not all there mentally.
Yeah.
I've had her 3 times in April. I've had her each week, and it's every time it's for something different. One time it'll be a trespass. The next time it's petty larceny. So you do see, and one of the sad things about, I was downtown with you guys, you would see kind of the people that would stick to one area of the downtown, and then you'd stop seeing them.
Yeah.
And you'd ask and say, hey, has anybody seen this guy? And then you'd hear, oh, they passed away or whatever. So, it's one of those things. I think a lot of times it's a chicken or an egg thing. Are they mentally ill? Are they under the influence? Are they trying to self-medicate? But so much of that, anytime they find someone in Henderson, I feel like with a lot of these repeat offenders, you're going to find paraphernalia, you're going to find drugs.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a vicious cycle. And then, to my kind of last point about this whole thing, we have a very interesting tax setup in the state of Nevada. So we don't have income tax. You pay really high car insurance, but you also pay really high registration fees. And it's kind of a way they get around having an income tax. And that's why we have the room tax. And that's why we have high fuel. And that's why we have a high sales tax.
Yeah, I paid $6.20
Yeah.
a gallon.
Yeah. It's,
Like tanks 33 gallons.
well, and the thing is that even with those really high things, we don't have enough money to appropriately fund mental health services or drugs situations. And so, unfortunately, and I don't think the prosecutors want it to be this way, but, the prosecution side has kind of become a de facto place for people who are, unhoused, but, can't stop committing crimes or under the influence or mentally ill because there's really no other place to deal with them or no one willing. Oftentimes the police get called out. And until we fix those things, I think it's going to be a lot more of the same. So in the municipal court side of it, they play a really important role in the community in dealing with problems that we either don't have the money or there's not the political will to deal with.
Yeah.
It is what it is. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
Mm-hmm. You excited?
Oh, certainly. The primary is June 9th. I'm very excited. That's where
You're
we're
running against Alicia Murphy and
Jessica Green.
Jessica Green.
Right. Alicia's a prosecutor in the city of Las Vegas. Jessica serves as a pro tem sometimes. And
a pro tem is like a substitute judge.
yeah. And it's a strange thing. Like, I didn't know these people. Alicia and I didn't have the same kind of overlap when we were in the city. I think we served at different times. And
Here's
Jess,
the best part about Alicia. Alicia's a legit 6'4". Her husband's huge too. He's a traffic cop. Like, she's like 6'8". But she loves to stand next to Matsuda because he says he's 5'7", but he's 5'5". And so you have this woman who is legit. She wears flats. She doesn't even wear heels. Like, she's a legit sister. I have to look up to her. And she would always stand by Jess.
She loves to stand next to me.
I've gotten to know these people kind of over the course of like campaigning.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you're sitting in court waiting for your case to get called. You
Oh, yeah.
kind of have that. And this is the same thing, waiting for endorsement interviews or things we're all at. And they're all extremely nice people. And, I only wish them the best. And the other thing too is running. I've watched my wife do it, and doing it myself. It's like, I applaud anybody that's willing to put themselves out there, because it can be, I don't want to cry like, oh, running, but it's a grueling process.
I did it. I got smoked.
And it's one of those things too. It's like, you really find out, you have, this is what I think reality is, and this is what reality is. And sometimes there's a huge gulf between the two, you know?
Yeah.
So it's a real eye opener. Sometimes you're right on, but a lot of times you're not.
Agree.
Yeah.
All right. So what's the website?
www.mattlayforjudge.com. 4 is FOR.
And you can donate on the site.
Yeah, absolutely. You can go read a little bit about my biography, get some more information. You can donate. You can see pictures of me doing different things.
And this guy used to always let's go to Bend, Oregon because he loves beer. But like, you're not drinking as much anymore, right?
I don't drink anymore.
No shit, like at all?
No.
And it's not like a problem. It's just
No, it's just I got to be 48 and I was like, I would drink a beer, and I love beer. I love the taste of beer, and I love craft beer. And I would drink
Did you say craft or crap?
craft beer, not Natty Light. I'm talking about the highbrow.
PBR.
Yeah.
Everyone grew
Yeah,
up on that.
Coors Light. But no, I mean, when you get to be a certain age, this is another thing nobody tells you about is you get to be a certain age, and it's like, staying up too late can really screw up your week.
Oh my God, I got in last night at like 9:30 or something from our Phoenix office, and like I'm wiped today.
Oh, yeah.
Just wiped.
We had an event where it started as 9, and I would have been in bed maybe 15 minutes at that point.
Yeah.
And I was infuriated. I was like, I could be at home asleep right now. But it's the other thing, you drink, my stomach would just hurt.
Really?
And so I just,
Interesting.
I kind of did that elimination diet, and it was
Yeah.
like, oh, I think this is it.
Now, one of the things I don't know, like I do Ozempic for other reasons,
Yeah.
like the weight loss. But like,
I do Manjaro.
oh, fancy.
Yeah, fancy. Well, here's the craziest thing. I went to Europe, and I took my dad to Europe because he'd never been, and we have Irish heritage, and my dad is like he's gonna be 89 this year, and so I took him when he was about, I think, 86. It was 2023, and we went to Ireland and Scotland, and it was just he and I, and then we met up with my wife and my kids in another European country, but there were like 7 to 10 days, and it was a lot of Guinness and a lot of fried food. And then we came back from Europe, and I think I got home on Sunday, and then I had to have my blood taken on Wednesday. And it was just like,
Your triglycerides are off the roof.
yeah, it's like, well, I have in my family high triglycerides, and then I had diabetes.
No shit.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like from 6 months, I went from one metric to another. And so it was like, I got to do something. I got 2 little kids, and I'm not even 50 yet. So I had to straighten out. And I'll tell you, like, if you're thinking about doing it, I don't know about for you, but for me, it was like a miracle drug. Like, I've been able to lose about 40 pounds. Like, and not just, I know people say like, oh, it's a crutch, you're taking the easy way out, but it's totally changed the way I eat and approach food. Because like the sad thing is if you eat greasy food or you eat something,
it punishes you.
You will be punished.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into the gory details, but it's explosive. Let's just say that. But yeah. But it's one of those things. Like, I had plain oatmeal for breakfast this morning, and I washed it down with some creatine.
Nice.
So I'm going to go home and probably have some bananas. And
I had a protein shake this morning, and then I had some cottage cheese. I was like, this is delicious.
oh yeah, it's great. I ran out of plain pecans in my office, so it's not as fancy as I do it, but it is a miracle drug. And my wife will unabashedly tell you, like, she was the first one. She was a guinea pig, and she loved it. And she's like, you got to try it. So I did it, and I'm no looking back.
A lot of weight.
Yeah,
too.
she did. Yeah.
Well, she also got into running. Is she still running?
No, she did when her last election, she walked. She was knocking on doors, and she was putting in tons of miles, like lots of steps.
Yeah.
And so she does that, and she still, puts in. She's very active, so not as many marathons or things like that.
Yeah. Fuck that. Jess used to run when he had 2 knees.
Yeah. I did 1 marathon, and that's it.
Yeah.
Which I know.
If there was a way to do negative marathons, I would do that.
21.
But I'm 50. I'm on Ozempic. I still drink because I'm not a quitter.
That's why you lost your hair, though.
Always with the hair.
Sorry.
Always with. Are you?
No. I think you should grow it out on the sides. I want to see that.
Oh, the Friar Tuck.
Yeah. There was always a guy that was in like Clint Eastwood movies in the 70s. It was Juliette Lewis's dad. I can't remember his name, but he had that look. I think we're going to get it here. But he had the bald pate, but then he had kind of the Friar Tuck look. Yeah,
There you go.
Jeffrey Lewis.
Oh,
with the
wow.
G.
That doesn't like that.
Oh, wait. Fuck off.
He's a handsome guy.
I forget. That guy was
He
in a
doesn't
lot of
have
stuff.
Yeah. He's one of those guys that's always in movies when you don't know his name.
He doesn't have the human growth hormone head like Ben
Is it
has.
matched?
You know what, though? Hey, funny story. Like, yeah, I do take human growth hormone through my doctor, dickhead. But,
His doctor's a veterinarian.
you know what you call a failed veterinarian?
What's that?
Doctor. It's harder to be a vet than a doctor, dick. But, you know what's crazy is I got my wedding ring, right? And the growth hormone has caused my knuckles to grow.
Oh, can you get it off?
I got to fucking lotion the shit out of it.
Yeah. You know what's crazy is losing weight. I can wear my ring again. Or it's just crazy. Like the losing weight and being able to like.
At one point, and Jess refers to it as my Kool-Aid Man days,
Oh, yeah.
I got very healthy.
Very
And like the hardest thing to do when you're a certain size is fucking tie your shoes.
Oh yeah.
Oh, dude, it's the
100%.
worst.
Yeah.
Like you were out of breath tie your
But
shoes.
that's a thing. Like they measure old people's health like can they get up from a sitting position? Or
Yeah.
I knew I was in trouble because I've been there, done that. I know all about that.
Yeah. Going back to that athletic ability.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. And no, but that test isn't easy. Like the going from sitting down to standing up, like the way they grade it, like it's not easy.
Yeah, no. And I don't think a lot of people can do it anymore.
Yeah.
How are you like
A lot of people can't get up from a sitting, like if people can't cross their
cross
legs,
legs?
or they can't get up off the floor without using.
Yeah, you have to sit down Native American style.
Not use your
legs
hands.
cross apples
Yeah.
house?
And you
Yeah,
can't
crisscross.
you can't use your hands, but you also can't like brace. Like say you're halfway up and you gotta go and like hit
Yeah,
the wall
no,
or something. You can't do that.
It's like the field sobriety
I
test.
actually didn't do that with my knee though.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah, but that's like a huge predictor if you can hit 80 or not, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm gonna try that.
Yeah.
When I'm better.
I can still do it.
Yeah. Shit.
Tams can do it, right? Yeah.
She looks very fit.
Skin a bitch.
I can't do it when I'm drunk.
You'll run down you have no knee, you'll be running down the street when you're drunk.
That's how I hurt my
Saying
knee.
Flash Gordon. Flash is going on. That's what Jess does.
It's
But yeah.
sometimes.
And so, before we finish, because I wanted to talk about this. Like you talk about crimes of violence, you talk about theft, and shit
Yeah.
like that. But when you're at that level, when you're at the municipal court level, like there's two cases that are like the most serious cases in municipal court, and you will go to trial. Usually, a trial in municipal court is an hour, maybe 2 hours.
I got it.
But
Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
usually in municipal court, like a trial's an hour or two, right?
Right.
DUIs, domestic violence, all that stuff. Maybe bleeds over a little bit, but typically about an hour or two.
Yeah, right.
The most serious cases, like no joke, in muni court are dog barking cases and quality of life cases. And what I mean is Jess had this guy, Asian guy, I remember.
Oh, pigeon guy.
And he he was pigeons, yeah.
Yeah.
But you'll have hoarders who will either put like, animals, or like they'll have like a car, like 50 cars in their front yard and all that stuff. And they'll go to trial. Like on a dog barking case, I remember there was a victim in the case who was wearing like a rebreather, the things with the two cans on the side.
Yeah.
And she was saying, that dog stressed me out so much with its barking, it gave me cancer.
Jeez. I've had a situation where like they have animals, but then they don't clean up the waste, and then it attracts rats.
Yeah.
And then you have people that love to feed pigeons, but then it'll attract 12,000 pigeons, and the pigeons will, defecate everywhere.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, and it's very extremely acidic. It'll destroy paint. And then you do get a lot of those, I don't like my neighbor, so I'm going to file a dog complaint, or I don't like my neighbor, so, I'm going to spray him with water. You get a lot of those kind of cases as well. In the muni court, because it doesn't rise to the level. It's not it's violent in the sense that you're battering someone, but it's not like what you would think of as a battery.
It's more of like you're an asshole,
Yeah.
but you're not a criminal asshole.
Yeah, right. It's two people that don't like each other, and
Yeah.
We had one. I think Sam had that murder case. Started off as muni, as neighbors, like just going at each other about a fence. Ended up, I think one guy was a pastor. Ended up the guy shot the two neighbors in the head, and it turned into like this big ass double homicide.
Yeah.
And it started over.
it started over a fence.
fence. Like,
Yeah.
Wasn't there that one about that? There was an Asian lady that shot. I thought he was a pastor too. A couple, they were neighbors. They were fighting over HOA going on. She ended up shooting him.
Well, and
was
there's
she Filipino?
She was eight. She was. I think so. Is that the same?
No, it's not this. No, I don't think this is the same one.
This was recent. This was within like
Was
two.
it up in Summerlin?
I think so.
I think so too. That rings
2 or
a bell.
3 years ago, maybe.
Well, this
I do know one because of the soccer club my daughter's on. There's a parent on the soccer club who was an interesting dude. I'll just leave it at that. But his neighbor jumped down and went, ah! And he hated his the Albion parent. Ooh, I shouldn't say that. The soccer parent, like literally just whipped out a gun and shot the guy.
Was that the guy that's showing his nuts though?
He said he was showing his nuts, but it wasn't.
Oh,
Like they had video.
well, he had some MH issues, right? That
Yeah,
guy.
he had MH issues, and the other guy was like some like amateur MMA guy with anger issues, and yeah.
there was a road rage shooting that happened in Henderson, and
Oh, with the kid.
the 11-year-old kid was killed because it started off as one guy didn't want to let the other one in, and he cut the guy off, and
Then they went back and forth.
I mean it's just crazy. It shows you it just takes a second for that kind of stuff to spin out.
Oh my God, I was driving. You know where Harmon like comes onto the 15
Yeah.
south,
Yeah, yeah.
and how it's that weird like in
Yeah,
the
it's on
fast lane,
the left side, yeah,
and the merging is just terrible there.
right, and it's a very short merge lane.
Yeah,
yeah.
and there's this one woman who was like flipping me off. I told you guys, and then she got behind me, and I was like, oh, it's going to show up on Nextdoor. Like, she's filming me, and I'm just driving.
Yeah.
But, like, she was pissed because I was ahead of her, and I didn't let her get ahead of me. And that was literally it, and she was insane.
Yeah.
But
Can't be too careful.
what do you do with those situations?
I mean, anymore, it's like, for me, it's just let the people go, hit the slow lane and let them move on.
From a judicial perspective.
Oh, it's not from a judicial perspective. I mean, that kind of behavior, it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? You're getting someone, and you can kind of tell, you get career criminals, and a lot of them will have history going back to the 70s. But then you'll get some people, and they're like picking up a case, and they're 38 or 42, or they're in their 60s.
I had a domestic violence in the city, old couple. They were fucking 90.
Yeah.
Like, he couldn't even walk, but, like, I guess he aggressively, like, hit her with his wheelchair or something like that. And they charged him with domestic violence.
But it's
and I was like, what do you, he's not going to go to classes?
Yeah.
He's not going to do 6 months of classes.
What do you do? And I mean, at that point, is there something cognitive going on?
Yeah.
Because those kind of things can happen at that age. But that to my point, everybody's different. And the other thing too is, like, there are certain cases that, require a tougher approach. And then there are some cases it's kind of a unique, out of the ordinary. And for these people, it's kind of an aberration. It's not part of their normal way of being. They've lived for 42 years without picking up a case. So I think you have to recognize that.
And do you, like, and I know there's a case called Cripps where you're not supposed
You
to.
can't be involved.
Well, you're not supposed to be involved, but if you are involved, you have to put it on the record.
Right.
Because Old Vegas, miss it, love it. There used to be situations where we'd just go in the back room with the judge and we'd chop it up and we'd figure out what was fair. Now, the counter to that is you can still do that, but you have to put it on the record. At least that's what Cripps says. Do you think there are situations where something like that would come into play?
I mean, I haven't seen that happen, and the judges that I appear in
Currents all day long.
Yeah, and the judges that I appear in front of in Henderson are very,
Fascists.
they're very careful not to get involved in our deals, and they will explicitly tell defendants on the record, because a lot of times you get this thing, I see it all the time. When you're a defense attorney, it would drive me nuts, and as a prosecutor, you see it, and I kind of feel for the defense attorneys that have to deal with it. But you get a client who will tell you one thing, and then will appear in front of the court, and will start trying to negotiate with the judge. And if part of it is they don't realize the judge can't get involved in it. Our judges in Henderson, from what I've observed, will tell the defendant, I can't get involved in that. And that would be my model. I'm never say never. There could be some circumstance where, you need a judge. They did it during COVID. You had these judges come in and do settlement conferences, but it was usually a neutral judge that wasn't going to be the judge that ultimately sentenced them.
Yeah.
But I would try to stay out of that. And like I said, I would defer to the parties because they tend to know the case better than I do. But there are, you get people that appear in front of your court and they might need you to talk slower or talk louder or, try and walk them through a little bit. And those are things that are easy. I think the other thing too that judges can do is have more of a part in the community. Because one of the things I've noticed as I've been running, and I don't know if this was your experience, is a lot of people don't really understand the differences between the courts or what the courts do, or, I see it all the time. People don't know how to plead, and they just had a defense attorney tell them, here's what you got to do, or the judge tells them multiple times. But it's kind of that education piece. And I think there's a way to do that, and I think that would help with some of the problems. But in terms of getting explicitly involved in plea negotiations, that wouldn't be something I'm comfortable with.
There was a guy years and years ago, and I loved him to death. I miss him to this day. His name was Toy Gregory. He was a municipal court judge.
I was never around. I know who he is.
I love Toy. He was a wild man. He used to get drunk at the hotels, in like Lincoln County or like Abernathy, and he would jump on chandeliers and swing. Like that was his thing for whatever reason. He was just this crazy man. He was like 5'7", had huge earlobes. It was weird. That's what I remember. But he was very good at saying this is most people's first exposure to the legal community.
100%.
And so you do have to have a little bit of patience
Exactly.
when you're dealing with it.
Right.
And so
That's why I think, going formulaic, having the script that you read, I mean, you need to keep things consistent, and you need to protect people's rights in terms of making sure they're canvassed appropriately, meaning, they know what they're getting into if they're taking a plea deal or if they're admitting to certain elements of the case. But then there's also, times when you can do that in a way that's not, I'm a robot reading off a script.
Yeah.
And I think that's not my style, and I don't see that happen.
yeah, one of the things is this gentleman here was very professional and polished in front of you all. is a sarcastic motherfucker. And it kind of like a dare. Remember Val back in the day, who I also miss and love.
Yeah, she was fantastic.
She's always had a way to slip a dig in there.
Yeah.
I anticipate that you may be
I
capable
remember
of doing that.
there was one time you were in there. I don't think you were there. But Adair's courtroom was different than everyone else because she had a bigger gallery, meaning there were more rows of chairs for people to sit in her particular courtroom for some reason. And it was always packed, and they would put all the families and people who are out of custody on the right, and then all the attorneys and parole and probation and cops on the left. And the courtroom was just packed. Like, it was one of those you walk in, standing room only, and Ben is sitting in the first row. And I think this might have been the case with the guys with the jerseys. And we were all there ready to go, and we were waiting for the prosecutor. And so you texted the prosecutor.
At me?
Yeah, but I don't think you remember what I did afterwards, is because she yelled at you, and all you were trying to do was get the prosecutor there. And she yelled at the DA who was there, and she was doing the same thing. And she was yelling at people like, why is everybody on their phone? And so then she took a deep breath and then called the next case. And I held up my phone and I said, I've just got to finish this text message to Mr. Co-Chiever, who is the team chief for the DA's office. And he was standing right there. And it like, she had a look on her face like she was going to bore holes with laser eyeballs. She didn't say anything, but and even the inmates are up there laughing. And Co-Chiever was like, I have nothing to do with this.
She was fun, man.
Yeah, I miss her a lot.
She would call you up sometimes and just ask, like, what's the background on this? Because she could kind of suss it out, but she wanted to know, like...
She was a smart
smart judge, yeah.
I remember, I still feel like such an asshole for this. One day she's in there, and I'm like, oh, you got a haircut. I love it. It looks so nice. She had a fucking wig on. Because she
That transfer girl.
Yeah.
Oh,
such a jerk. I had a gift for that. That's one of the gifts I have, is the ability to say something that I feel is complimentary, but is
I think it came from a good place. I wouldn't fault you for that.
incredibly damaging.
Jess's sarcasm ends up biting him in the ass.
Yeah, no, it's true. And like I said, I loved Jess's girlfriend when he first moved to town. I always hear the end of it.
Oh.
But we were outside standing in the light, and her eyebrows looked purple. I didn't realize she had tattooed her eyebrows.
Oh.
And so it was actually like black tattoo, but the way the sun was shining, it looked purple. So this asshole, to this day, will still yell at me for telling his girlfriend that she had purple eyebrows.
Did it cause a problem? Yeah.
I had to hear about it for years.
One of my greatest memories is when you dressed up as Jess for Halloween.
Oh, he did it.
You had a wig on. Oh, you did it again? Yeah. Oh, my God. It's great.
Never did it in front of a dare.
So we did do it in front of a dare. She's like, what are you doing? Oh, you're Jess.
Oh.
All right. We can talk to Matt for hours because he's entertaining. He is legitimately a good person. You can hear how thoughtful he is. You can hear why he ran. Like he put himself out there. It's not a pleasant experience to run. You are, for lack of a better term, sucking a lot of dicks.
Good for you.
Like community, law enforcement, the defense bar. Because here's the thing. Law enforcement's endorsements are huge. The defense bar usually funds most judicial campaigns. And so... like, it's this weird double-edged sword, but it is unpleasant to be subject to many masters. But Matt has done an excellent job of navigating it. He's done an excellent job throughout his career being professional, being funny, and also getting the best results he possibly can. He gave you his website. You can donate there. You can learn a little bit more about him. But when all's said and done, Matt would be an excellent judge. And so that's why we had him on. Obviously, we like to have interesting conversations.
Thank you for having me. You guys are great friends. I appreciate this. And, we had a lot of hijinks and fun. And I miss you guys.
We had some good times.
Yes, buddy. All right, that's our episode. Jess, say something.
Know your rights, know who's on the bench, and stay out of trouble. But if you can't, at least know who to call.
That's true. But thank you. From the beach to the bar, episode 20 million. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. And toodaloo. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, guys.